So I'm going to open up Part Design and save my file as the assignment name, number, and my username. And at the very top is going to be our sketch tool. And that's going to be the one that we're going to use to enter into sketch mode. You have to have a plane selected, but once you do, clicking on that icon is going to bring us into a 2D space that has a grid system on the back. And by default, you're going to generally have these two toolbars that pop out as movable. I like to dock them at the top so that I can get them out of the way of my workspace. So if you look at your Sketch Tools toolbar up at the top, you've generally got Snap to Point that might open up already selected. And that's useful if you're in a part that has equal increments that are equivalent to your grid. For instance, if you have a 10 millimeter grid and your features are located 10 or 20 or 50 millimeters away from each other, you can snap to those locations and it helps you a little bit with your drawing efficiency. However, if you have a part that's like 7, 17, 23, that's not going to help you at all. So I generally leave my snap to grid turned off. The two icons you definitely want to have selected is your geometric constraints and your dimensional constraints. And that's going to ensure that when you add a constraint that it holds it throughout the duration of your part. If they're turned off, then those are just temporary, and that is going to lead to your part acting a little bit funny and moving around when you don't want it to. And then if you go in and edit it, it's not going to hold those constraints true like we need it to. So make sure those are selected. And then if you look on the right-hand side, you have filters, and those you generally want to have none of those selected. And if you have a really complex part, it might be useful to turn off some of the different features so that you can make selections behind them. So that would be filtering out all of your lines or all of your surfaces, but you generally want to have those all available to you. So on the right-hand side, we have the profile toolbar right here, which is going to allow you to make sketches using the different shapes. You have some predefined ones like circles and rectangles that kind of already have some constraints built in, or you have the profile tool itself, which allows you to make straight lines, arcs, or 3-point arcs and tangent arcs. And you also have other tools like the spline tool that you can use to make anchor points and kind of make a curved line. And then you have reference geometry like an axis that you can add and helps you with some of your constraint generation, which is done using the constraints toolbar. You've got the dimensional constraints are just underneath the icon that says constraints, but anything that is geometric is going to be under your constraints defined in the dialog box. You also have an operations toolbar, which helps you make some modifications to your parts, curved edges, and it helps you trim off some lines, make some reflective symmetry objects, things of that nature. Again, you still have your views toolbar down at the bottom, so if you want to zoom in and out, you can do that there. You can pan left and right if you need to make your object, move so you can see parts of it. If you want to zoom to where all of your object is enclosed in that space, fit all in, we'll do that for you. Whenever you're done with a sketch, then what you're going to do is exit your sketch using the exit workbench icon at the top, and that'll bring you back into your 3D orientation where you can convert that sketch into a 3D feature. Let's take a quick look over at the right-hand side to see our toolbars that we have under part design. So we have Sketcher, which is our access to the Sketcher workbench. We have our sketch-based features, which will allow us to turn our sketch into a 3D object. Next, we have dress-up features, will allow us to modify our part by making like curved edges or hollowing out the part, things of that nature. And then down at the bottom here, we have the transformation toolbar, which will allow us to do things like make duplicates, do some patterns and things of that nature. Okay, so that brings us through just a little bit of the toolbars available to you. Hopefully it gets you a little bit more comfortable with using CATIA, and we'll get into sketching in the next video.